Mama turns all negative activity around. Mama, we the daughters of earth, the sweet crone trinity, have been inspired in the spirit of compassion for the well-being of our ancient cosmic family, to understand why you connected this trio to demonstrate the magic of your power, to awaken and protect our universal ancient family. Welcome to Talk with MamaYAH on Truth Uncompromised. Mama, empower our ability with the authority of our common purpose. We are one in the best interest of our global family, in your essence as ancient of ancients. Mama, please allow this Trinity to naturally raise upright our fallen sisters, to elevate them to their true celestial level in mind and spiritual substance. The sweet crone Trinity, MamaYAH, Sister Myra, and Selah Eliana Bay. Good evening. This evening we're going to continue the reading from The Science of Breath by MamaYAH. It is linked at divineconnectionchurch.wordpress.com under The Science of Breath. Breath, the air taken into or expelled from the lungs. I was gasping for breath, an inhalation or exhalation of the air from the lungs. She drew in a quick breath. The archaic definition is the power of breathing, and the synonyms are life or life force, like there was no breath left in her. When you learn to breathe, you learn that life is not about getting, life is about letting go. Every breath, as word or wondrous sigh, precipitates change. Now imagine our bodily waters flowing breath by breath, covering all creation in a mist of intention time. As focus goes, so will creation flow. Go gratitude. Breathe easily, releasing vaporized sighs of matters realized through intention gratitude. Breath contains both air and moisture. The moisture or water is impregnated and charged with the flowing magnetism of feeling that attracts that which has been willed, visualized, and thought into form. Even the smallest amount of charged water has the ability to change all water that it comes into contact with. On the out-breath, the moisture in the breath is in immediate contact with the moisture in the air of the macrocosm. And this magnetism ripples out to the entire unified field of magnetic energy in the astral plane. So that's from Go Gratitude. That's an exercise that I've been doing for several years. You just go to gogratitude.com and sign up, and you'll get the newsletter, or each day there's 42 days of exercises about gratitude. But remember, as you take the breath in, you have to let it go. So life is about letting go. Now we're going to read from chapter 6 of the Hindu Yogi, Science of Breath by Yogi MamaYAH. Chapter 6, Nostril and Mouth Breathing. One of the first lessons in the yogi science of breath is to learn how to breathe through the nostrils and to overcome the common practice of mouth breathing. The breathing mechanism of man is so constructed that he may breathe either through the mouth or nasal tubes. But it is a matter of vital importance to him which method he follows, as one brings health and strength, and the other disease and weakness. It should not be necessary to state to the student that the proper method of breathing is to take the breath through the nostrils, but alas, the ignorance among civilized people regarding this simple matter is astounding. We find people in all walks of life habitually breathing through their mouths and allowing their children to follow their horrible and disgusting example. Many of the diseases to which civilized man is subject are undoubtedly caused by this common habit of mouth breathing. Children permitted to breathe in this way grow up with impaired vitality and weakened constitution, and in manhood and womanhood break down and become chronic invalids. The mother of the savage race does better, being evidently guided by her intuition. She seems to instinctively recognize that the nostrils are the proper channels for the conveyal of air to the lungs, and she trains her infant to close its little lips and breathe through the nose. She tips its head forward when it is sleeping, which attitude closes the lips and makes the nostril breathing imperative. If our civilized mothers were to adopt the same plan, it would work a great good for the race. Many contagious diseases are contracted by the disgusting habit of mouth breathing, and many cases of cold and catarrhal affections are also attributable to the same cause. Many persons who, for the sake of appearances, keep their mouth closed during the day, persist in mouth breathing at night, and often contract disease in that way. Carefully conducted scientific experiments have shown that soldiers and sailors who sleep with their mouths open are much more liable to contract contagious diseases than those who breathe properly through the nostrils. An instance is related in which smallpox became epidemic on a man of war in foreign parts, and every death which resulted was that of some sailor or marine who was a mouth breather, not a single nostril breather succumbing. The organs of respiration have their only protective apparatus, filter, or dust catching in the nostrils. When the breath is taken through the mouth, there is nothing from mouth to lungs to strain the air or to catch the dust and other foreign matter in the air. From mouth to lungs, the dirt or impure substance has a clear track, and the entire respiratory system is unprotected. And moreover, such incorrect breathing admits cold air to the organs, thereby injuring them. Inflammation of the respiratory organs often results from the inhalation of cold air through the mouth. The man who breathes through the mouth at night always awakens with a parched feeling in the mouth and a dryness in the throat. He is violating one of nature's laws and is sowing the seeds of disease. Once more, remember that the mouth affords no protection to the respiratory organ, and cold air, dust, and impurities and germs readily enter by that door. On the other hand, the nostrils and nasal passages show evidence of the careful design of nature in this respect. The nostrils are two narrow, tortuous channels containing numerous bristly hairs, which serve the purpose of a filter or sieve to strain the air of its impurities, which are expelled when the breath is exhaled. Not only does the nostrils serve this important purpose, but they also perform an important function in warming the air inhaled. The long, narrow, winding nostrils are filled with warm mucous membrane, which, coming in contact with inhaled air, warms it so that it can do no damage to the delicate organs of the throat or to the lungs. No animal except man sleeps with the mouth open or breathes through the mouth. And in fact, it is believed that it is only civilized man who so perverts nature's function. It is probable that this unnatural habit among civilized men has been acquired through the unnatural methods of living, enervating luxuries and excessive warmth. The refining, filtering, and straining apparatus of the nostrils renders the air fit to reach the delicate organs of the throat and the lungs. And the air is not fit to so reach these organs until it has passed through nature's refining process. The impurities which are stopped and retained by the sieves and mucous membrane of the nostrils are thrown out again by the expelled breath in exhalation. And in case they have accumulated too rapidly and have managed to escape through the sieves and have penetrated forbidden regions, nature protects us by producing a sneeze which violently ejects the intruder. The air, when it enters the lungs, is as different from the outside air as is distilled water from the water of the cistern. The intricate purifying organization of the nostrils, arresting and holding the impure particles in the air, is as important as is the action of the mouth in stopping cherry stones and fish bones and preventing them from being carried on to the stomach. Man should no more breathe through his mouth than he would attempt to take food through his nose. Another feature of mouth breathing is that the nasal passages, being thus comparatively unused, consequently fail to keep themselves clean and clear and become clogged up and unclean and are apt to contract local diseases. Like abandoned roads that soon become filled with weeds and rubbish, unused nostrils become filled with impurities and foul matter. One who habitually breathes through the nostrils is not likely to be troubled with clogged or stuffy nostrils. But for the benefit of those who have been more or less addicted to the unnatural mouth breathing and who wish to acquire the natural and rational method, it may perhaps be well to add a few words regarding the way to keep those nostrils clean and free from impurities. A favorite Oriental method is to snuff a little water up the nostrils, allowing it to run down the passage into the throat. From thence, it may be ejected through the mouth. Some Hindu yogis immerse the face in a bowl of water and by a sort of suction draw in quite a quantity of water. But this latter method requires considerable practice, and the first mentioned method is equally efficacious and much more easily performed. Another good plan is to open the window and breathe freely, closing one nostril with the finger or thumb, sniffing up the air through the nostril. Then repeat the process on the other nostril. Repeat several times, changing nostrils. This method will usually clear the nostrils of obstruction. In case the trouble is caused by catarrh, it is well to apply a little Vaseline or camphor ice or similar preparation, or sniff up a little witch hazel extract once in a while, and you will notice a marked improvement. A little care and attention will result in the nostrils becoming clean and remaining so. We have given considerable space to this subject of nostril breathing, not only because of its great importance in its reference to health, but because nostril breathing is a prerequisite to the practice of the breathing exercises to be given later in this book, and because nostril breathing is one of the basic principles underlying the yogi science of breath. We urge upon the student the necessity of acquiring this method of breathing if he has it not, and caution against dismissing this phase of the subject as unimportant. Personally, now this is MamaYAH talking. Personally, I have used this breathing method since my 20s, and as a vocalist, it has been invaluable for me to know how to do this. I'm going to open the queue right now and ask if anyone out there has ever read this book, The Science of Breath, or learned the breathing. Okay, so it is open, and I'm not sure who. I'm going to open. I have 3 lines that may want to speak. So first I'm opening 313. Would you like to say something? 313. Okay. 313 doesn't want to say something. What about 206? 206, would you like to say something? Area code.
I just came
yes.
on. This is Paulette in Seattle. I just came on and I just want to listen.
Okay.
But I hear you. I hear you, and it sounds good. I'm learning.
Very good. Very good. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Now we have, okay, so that was, all right. Let's see. We have 313. Hello?
Yes, good evening, MamaYAH. How are you today?
Wonderful. Terrific. How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine, thank you. I am so sorry. I was busy working with my mom. I had to feed her, so I couldn't really listen to what you were saying, but I'm going to catch it on the replay because once I heard a little bit of it, and I said, oh, yeah, that's exactly what I've been needing to know because I had some health issues, and a friend of mine reminded me that I needed to breathe properly. And she was telling me, I don't know if this is what you had said, but it was like the yogic type breathing. And she reminded me of that. And then because as I would come up the flight of stairs, I would feel like I was about to have a heart attack. My breathing was so shallow. And then once I began breathing properly, I can come up the stairs and I don't feel like I'm going to have a heart attack. And sometimes if I'm rushing, going too fast, I do start feeling little symptoms, and I'm like, okay, and I remind myself to breathe. So that I'm trying to be mindful now and practice the breathing exercises that I was taught. But I'm real interested, and I wrote down the title of the book. But I'm going to listen to the replay so that I can hear exactly what you said, because I think that's some very valuable information for if anybody's listening with health issues or who want to improve their health or do meditations or yoga or anything. All of the breathing is so critical. So thank you for bringing the information. And I'm sorry I did miss, part of it.
Well, because I am MamaYAH, and I do teach from a mother's perspective, I must teach what I have learned to be the core of good living. And I found this little book back in the 70s.
Wow.
And I have read it several times. I use the exercises. There are actually exercises, and this book was published in 1903.
Wow.
So, The Science of Breath by Yogi Rama Sharaka. And you can get the PDF file from the blog that I send everybody to, divineconnectionchurch.com. Just hit the post for The Science of Breath, and you will have a link in there for this PDF file that I'm reading from.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this
yes.
is wonderful.
And so one thing in there is how if you're cold, there's a breathing exercise that will warm you up. And if you're hot, the opposite exercise will cool you down. And so there are so many things about our body that we really don't know about, because we weren't taught properly. Reading and writing and arithmetic is not. If you don't know how to breathe, you can't read, you can't write, and you can't calculate, So that's where I'm coming from with this. This is a talk with MamaYAH, and MamaYAH is here to tell you what she has learned to be the best way to live.
Well, that's the truth. It really is. And it's something so simple. Everybody thinks they know how to breathe, but once you really do it the right way and you see what a difference it can make, oh, yeah. Thank you so much.
Right. So I want everybody right now to take a deep breath through your nose. Close your mouth and take a deep breath. Hold it. Now blow it out. Now you should not do that more than 10 times because you will get lightheaded. You will over-oxygenate. Oxygen is a very powerful element. So let's breathe in again through the nose. And when you breathe in, you push your stomach out like a balloon. And when you blow out, you tighten your stomach. It takes practice, but that's the first breathing exercise in the science of breath. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And where are you calling from?
Detroit.
Oh, good. So we went from Seattle to Detroit, and I'm in Florida. We've got a perfect triangle. That's beautiful. Okay.
Yes,
thank you.
Peace and love.
All right. Peace and love. Keep listening, okay?
I sure will. Thank you.
Okay. If anyone else has anything to say, hit *6. Otherwise, I'll just go back to reading, and then I'll come back again. So this is chapter 7, The Four Methods of Respiration from the Science of Breath by Yogi Ramacharaka. And this is a Hindu yogi. In the consideration of the question of respiration, we must begin by considering the mechanical arrangements whereby the respiratory movements are affected. The mechanics of respiration manifest through, first, the elastic movements of the lungs, and second, the activities of the sides and bottom of the thoracic cavity in which the lungs are contained. The thorax is that portion of the trunk between the neck and the abdomen, the cavity of which, known as the thoracic cavity, is occupied mainly by the lungs and heart. It is bounded by the spinal column, the ribs with their cartilages, the breastbone, and below by the diaphragm. It is generally spoken of as the chest. It has been compared to a completely shut conical box, the small end of which is turned upward, the back of the box being formed by the spinal column, the front of the breastbone, and the sides by the ribs. The ribs are 24 in number, 12 on each side, and emerge from each side of the spinal column. The upper 7 pair are known as true ribs, being fastened to the breastbone direct, while the lower 5 pair are called false ribs or floating ribs because they are not so fastened, the upper 2 of them being fastened by cartilage to the other ribs, the remainder having no cartilages, their forward ends being free. The ribs are moved in respiration by 2 superficial muscular layers, known as the intercostal muscles. The diaphragm, the muscular partition before alluded to, separates the chest box from the abdominal cavity. In the act of inhalation, the muscles expand the lungs so that a vacuum is created, and the air rushes in accordance with the well-known law of physics. Everything depends upon the muscles concerned in the process of respiration, which we may, for convenience, term the respiratory muscles. Without the aid of these muscles, the lungs cannot expand. And upon the proper use and control of these muscles, the science of breath largely depends. The proper control of these muscles will result in the ability to attain the maximum degree of lung expansion and the greatest amount of the life-giving properties of the air into the system. Yogis classify respiration into 4 general methods: high breathing, mid-breathing, low breathing, and yogi complete breathing. We will give a general idea of the first 3 methods and a more extended treatment of the 4th method, upon which the yogi science of breath is largely based. High breathing. This form of breathing is known to the Western world as clavicular breathing, collarbone breathing. One breathing in this way elevates the ribs and raises the collarbone and shoulders at the same time, drawing in the abdomen and pushing its contents up against the diaphragm, which in turn is raised. The upper part of the chest and lungs, which is the smallest, is used. And consequently, but a minimum amount of air enters the lungs. In addition to this, the diaphragm being raised, there can be no expansion in that direction. A study of the anatomy of the chest will convince any student that in this way, a maximum amount of effort is used to obtain a minimum amount of benefit. High breathing is probably the worst form of breathing known to man and requires the greatest expenditure of energy with the smallest amount of benefit. It is an energy-wasting, poor returns plan. It is quite common among the Western races, many women being addicted to it, and even singers, clergymen, lawyers, and others who should know better use it ignorantly. Many diseases of the vocal organs and organs of respiration may be directly traced to this barbarous method of breathing and the straining of delicate organs caused by this method. Often results in the harsh, disagreeable voices heard on all sides. Many persons who breathe in this way become addicted to the disgusting practice of mouth breathing, described in the previous chapter. If the student has any doubts about what has been said regarding this form of breathing, try the experiment of expelling all the air from your lungs, then standing erect with hands at sides. Then raise the shoulders and collarbone and inhale. You will find that the amount of air inhaled is far below normal. Then inhale a full breath after dropping the shoulders and collarbone, and you will receive an object lesson in breathing, which will be apt to remember much longer. Mid-breathing. This method of respiration is known to Western students as rib breathing or intercostal breathing, and while less objectionable than high breathing, is far inferior to either low breathing or to the yogi complete breath. In mid-breathing, the diaphragm is pushed upward and the abdomen drawn in. The ribs are raised somewhat and the chest is partially expanded. It is quite common among men who have made no study of the subject, as there are two better methods known. Low breathing. This form of respiration is far better than either of the two preceding forms, and of recent years, many Western writers have extolled its merits and have exploited it under the names of abdominal breathing, deep breathing, diaphragmic breathing. And much good has been accomplished by the attention of the public having been directed to the subject, and many having been induced to substitute it for the inferior and injurious methods above alluded to. Many systems of breathing have been built around low breathing, and students have paid high prices to learn the new system. But as we have said, much good has resulted. And after all, the students who paid high prices to learn revamped old systems undoubtedly got their money's worth if they were induced to discard the old methods of high and mid-breathing. Although many Western authorities write and speak of this method as the best-known form of breathing, the yogis know it to be but a part of a system which they have used for centuries and which they know as the complete breath. It must be admitted, however, that one must be acquainted with the principles of low breathing before he can grasp the idea of complete breathing. Let us consider the diaphragm. What is it? we have seen that it is the great partition muscle which separates the chest and its contents from the abdomen and its contents. When it rests, it presents a concave surface to the abdomen. That is, the diaphragm, as viewed from the abdomen, would seem like the sky, as viewed from the earth, the interior of an arched surface. Consequently, the side of the diaphragm toward the chest organs is like a protruding, rounded surface like a hill. When the diaphragm and the diaphragm presses upon the abdominal organs and forces out the abdomen. The low breathing, the lungs are given freer play than in the methods already mentioned, and consequently, more air is inhaled. This fact has led the majority of Western writers to speak and write of low breathing, or abdominal breathing, as the highest and best method known to science. But the Oriental yogi has long known of a better method, and some few Western writers have also recognized this fact. The trouble with all methods of breathing, other than yogi complete breathing, is that in none of these methods do the lungs become filled with air. At the best, only a portion of the lung space is filled. Even in low breathing, high breathing fills only the upper portion of the lungs. Mid breathing fills only the middle and a portion of the upper. Low breathing fills only the lower and middle. It is evident that any method that fills the entire lung space must be far preferable to those filling only certain parts. Any method which will fill the entire lung space must be of the greatest value to the man, in the way of allowing him to absorb the greatest quantity of oxygen and to store away the greatest amount of prana. The complete breath is known to the yogis to be the best method of respiration known to science. The yogi complete breathing includes all the good points of high, mid, and low breathing, with the objectionable features of each eliminated. It brings into play the entire respiratory apparatus. Every part of the lungs, every air cell, every respiratory muscle. The entire respiratory organism responds to this method of breathing, and the maximum amount of benefit is derived. The chest cavity is increased to its normal limits in all directions, and every part of the machinery performs its natural work and function. One of the most important features of this method of breathing is the fact that the respiratory muscles are fully called into play, whereas in the other forms of breathing, only a portion of these muscles are used. In complete breathing, among other muscles, those controlling the ribs are actively used, which increases the space in which the lungs may expand, and also gives the proper support to the organs when needed, nature availing herself of the perfection of the principle of leverage in this process. Certain muscles hold the lower ribs firmly in position, while other muscles bend them upward. Then again, in this method, the diaphragm is under perfect control and is able to perform its functions properly, and in such manner as to yield a maximum degree of service. In the rib action, the lower ribs are controlled by the diaphragm, which draws them slightly downward, while other muscles hold them in place, and the intercostal muscles force them upward, outward, not upward, which combined action increases the mid-chest cavity to its maximum. In addition to this muscular action, the upper ribs are also lifted and forced outward by the intercostal muscles, which increases the capacity of the upper chest to its fullest extent. If you had studied the special features of the 4 given methods of breathing, you will at once see the complete breath compromises all the advantageous features of the 3 other methods, plus the reciprocal advantages accruing from the combined action of the high chest, mid-chest, and diaphragmatic regions, and the normal rhythm thus obtained. So, Chapter 8 gives you the Yogi complete breath. I'm going to open the queue again. Because what I would really like is for everyone to go to divineconnectionchurch.wordpress.com, click on Science of Breath in the right column, and read Chapter 7. The link is there on that post. Read the Yogi Complete Breath. We can all do this together. I'm going to read through it, but I would like for all of you to practice it and see if it changes anything about your physicality. So, what you do is you sit or stand erect, breathe through the nostrils, inhale steadily, filling the lower part of the lungs, which is accomplished by bringing into play the diaphragm, which descending exerts a gentle pressure on the abdominal organs, pushing forward the front walls of the abdomen. Then fill the middle part. Now, when you're doing that, it's like your abdomen is filling up like a balloon. Then fill the middle part of the lung, pushing out the lower ribs, breastbone, and chest. Then fill the higher part of the lung, protruding the upper chest, thus lifting the chest, including the upper 6 or 7 pairs of ribs. In the final movement, the lower part of the abdomen will be slightly drawn in, which movement gives the lungs a support and also helps to fill the highest part of the lung. And this is not 3 distinct movements. It's all one movement, just like a balloon. When it opens up, it looks like it's not going to be round until you get it fully open, but it's all one movement. Okay. Now, once you pull in that breath, if you feel at the base of your neck where that little space is, you can feel your heartbeat. So you're going to take the breath in for 6 counts. And don't be jerky with it. Strive to attain a steady, continuous action. Now, you hold the breath for 3 heartbeats. You take it in for 6, you hold it for 3. Then you exhale for 6 heartbeats. And it takes practice to do this. And then you leave the lungs empty for 3 heartbeats. Just try that. Put your hand at your pulse, where at the base of your neck. Now take in the breath. Blow it all out first. And as you blow out, tighten your abdomen. Okay, now take the breath in for 6. Hold for 3. Blow it out for 6. Tighten. Stay empty for 3. And repeat. Once you've learned how to do that, breathing, you won't. So you want to get high, breathe, because breathing is the ultimate high. I mean, let's face it. So I'm here. Anyone want to say anything? Raise your hand. *6. And that breathing exercise is in chapter, I believe it's 7. And you go, this is chapter 8, the Yogi Complete Breath. Okay. And be sure that you're sitting near a chair or a couch, because if you do this too much, you hyperventilate and you can just fall out. This is a very powerful exercise, the Yogi Complete Breath. And when you master it, you're going to find that it helps you if you're fearful, if you're angry, if you're upset in any way, if you don't feel well, if you use this breathing exercise, you fill your body with good air, prana, that cures everything. Prana cures everything. So, of course, they don't teach this in Western medicine because it doesn't cost anything to breathe. Is there anyone out there that would like to say something? *6. Okay, well, in that case, I'll just read the end. It says, you will find it quite a help to you if you will practice this breath before a large mirror, placing the hands lightly over the abdomen so that you may feel the movements. Your phone. At the end of the inhalation, it is well to occasionally slightly elevate the shoulders, thus raising the collarbone and allowing the air to pass freely into the small upper lobe of the right lung, which place is sometimes the breeding place of tuberculosis. At the beginning of practice, you may have more or less trouble in acquiring the complete breath, but a little practice will make perfect, and when you have once acquired it, you will never willingly return to the old method. And I can testify to that when I learned this exercise, not only did it help me live well, but it helped me sing well, and it helped me be calm in a storm, because when you connect with your breath, you're connecting with your creative force. So I'm sure that you understand that. Well, if no one has anything to say, I'm done with this reading this evening. I encourage you to go to divineconnectionchurch.wordpress.com and click on The Science of Breath, and the book, the PDF file, is linked there. Also go to gogratitude.com and do some of the reading there. Yes, very simple meditations, very simple. And I use them almost every week. So this is MamaYAH, and thank you for being here with me tonight. And I hope you learned something that will help you to live a better life. In the meantime, I'm going to find, here it is, a song that I love to end this show with. And be blessed. Breathe well. Learn the yogi complete breath. All right. Peace.